It's the first word.
We start with your Super Bowl champion, Green Bay Packers. Who had this one right? Tim Kalisha almost had the exact score on our show Friday. Paige wasn't overtime, but you had the pack, so a few points for you. Adonde and Smith, mute by no-show. Be a man, be on Friday's show. All right, we got a whole lot to get through, so let's be quick. Rodgers nearly flawless. Receivers sometimes receiving. Defense injured, but holding when it mattered most in the 2-minute drill. Gatorade was orange. That's kind of an upset. Mike Smith, what stood out to you? Super Bowl 45.
You know, going into this game, I knew that it was a favorable matchup for the Packers, their passing game versus the Steelers' suspect pass coverage. I didn't know it would turn out to be an absolute mismatch, and I think part of the reason, and it surprised me, was how physical the Steelers' defense wasn't. And when you talk about a defense that features Troy Polamalu and James Harrison and hard-hitting Ryan Clark and Lamar Woodley and the postseason success that he's had, they never intimidated the Packers. They never made them pay or fear going over the middle. They never rerouted the receivers or disrupted the timing of the Packers' offense. They didn't put any big hits or come up with any big plays. No turnovers, no strip sacks, no pick sixes. That was all the Packers' defense that did that, and that was huge in this game. I mean, you know, beyond that, they just could not cover the Packers receivers indoors, and we knew that.
Woody Page.
A. Rodgers stood out so big in this game, and you normally see Polamalu be able to spy on the quarterback, know exactly where to go. It was the other way around. Rodgers kept his eyes on Polamalu, and he was able to just totally take him out of the game. The fact that he was in control, the fact that he could have had another 6 or 7 pass completions and more than 400 yards, the fact that Aaron Rodgers never threw an interception, never seemed to be in trouble, was always in command of the game. It was Aaron Rodgers standing out. He should have been the MVP, obviously.
Totally agree on Rodgers, but I got to focus on the Packers defense, which got the huge interception from Nick Collins for the touchdown. That really put the Packers in control, and the Steelers spent the rest of the day on their heels trying to fight back the 3-0 turnover edge. But I can't imagine what it was like at halftime when they find out Charles Woodson's gone for the day. Shields is probably not going to play a lot more. You've lost 2 of your top 3 corners, and you still got to cover these guys, but they continued to not get beat and make plays.
Adonde.
What strikes me is how much the conventional wisdom has been knocked askew. All season long, we heard about how vastly superior the AFC was to the NFC. Well, guess what? The number 6 seed in the NFC just beat the 2nd seed in the AFC. And how many times have we been told you have to establish the run in the NFL? Well, guess what? The Packers just won a Super Bowl rushing for 50 yards. That actually makes it 4 straight years that the Super Bowl champ has rushed for less than 100 yards. So much for the run. Maybe, very quietly, we witnessed the culmination of a revolution in the National Football League in which the running game is very insignificant.
Smith, jump back in.
You know, but twin brother, I got to disagree with you on that because this is about a matchup. This has nothing to do with the NFC versus AFC superiority. This was an unfavorable matchup when you talk about a wide receiver group that goes 4 or 5 deep, and obviously when Driver went out, that was shortened against a secondary that if you watch the Steelers over the years, that's been the way to beat them. The Patriots wrote the book on it. You spread them out, you throw the ball against them. You don't even try to run, and that's why the Packers did.
Kalisha.
Yeah, I think you give the Packers credit for their game plan on offense, which really took Polamalu away from the line of scrimmage and out of the game.
Respectfully, got to disagree with Michael. I think they would have beaten the New England Patriots that we talked about all season. They would have beaten the New York Jets.
It's a matchup, bro.
I think the Green Bay Packers, by far, the superior team in the NFL this year.
Well, what they did in their last 2 months, winning 6 consecutive must-win games, elimination games, that's certainly on their resume and stands tall. 103,219 paid attendance for the game yesterday. 400 fewer seats. Your Super Bowl, Kalisha. The NFL did give the 400 fans who had to watch the game on TV from inside the stadium their money back, actually triple the face value, so 2,400 in total. And they'll also be guests of the NFL at next year's Super Bowl. How big of a black eye is this for the NFL, Kalisha?
Well, it's definitely a black eye because people are going to talk about it for a long time, and I think stories are going to continue to come out from fans who weren't really, nobody was really able to, for the most part, talk to them yesterday. They were kind of kept away even from the media after they were displaced from their seats. But, you know, the bad thing here, it's going to be blamed on Dallas. Jerry Jones, a very easy target. He's quoted in the there's a quote in the New York Times saying, Jerry Jones is offering me $2,400 for my seats. that's not true. It's the NFL. They run the game, but people are going to look at this as the Dallas Super Bowl that got messed up.
Michael Smith.
You know, I don't think it's much of a black eye. It might be a little bit of a bruise, a little bump, but honestly, I think at the end of the day, the game is what mattered. And after the game, I don't think it was as much of a big of a deal if we saw a quality football game. You know, it might be a black
Not
eye.
to those 400 people, though.
Yeah, but the NFL went above and beyond, I think. I mean, look, I don't care if you pay 6 times the amount of face value, they can't reimburse you for that. 3 times face value, tickets for next year, on the field, post-game. How many fans can say, a lot of media can't say they've been on the field post-game in the Super Bowl, and free food and drink? I mean, they really made up for that snafu. Oh, wow. So at the end of the day, it was a bad week, but a black eye cannot be blamed on the NFL. I'm talking about black ice and the weather.
So that's your reward. You get a ticket to go to next year's Super Bowl in Indianapolis. There's a big reward for you. And maybe the game was so good because it was played indoors. What's going to happen if they have a bad weather game when they go to New Jersey in a few years? So all the NFL decisions are starting to come home to roost, starting with the decision to go and take Bob McNair's money in Houston instead of bringing an expansion team here to L.A., where it was a nice 70 degrees yesterday.
Okay.
No danger of falling ice, injuring workers at an entrance to the stadium. You didn't have to close 4 of the entrances to the stadium. Hour-long waits just to get inside the stadium. People came down there, spent all that money
this whole
to
week
watch
was
the
a
game
black
on
eye
TV.
for the NFL.
That's a reward?
Paige?
Black-eyed peas were appropriate halftime entertainment because it was black-eyed NFL. And what bothers me, you can't do anything about the weather. We've seen that with the ice storm in Atlanta, with the bad weather in Jacksonville. But the NFL is using the Super Bowl as leverage now. It used to be, let's go to a warm weather city and entertain everybody at the end of January. San Diego, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Miami are the right places to go. But now, build a stadium, we bring the Super Bowl there. You know, spend some money. Bring it. McNair, you talked about. He put a team in Houston. Bring the Super Bowl there. Jerry Jones builds a stadium. Bring a Super Bowl there.
So that's what's happening. I want to get back to something Smith brought up, though.
The NFL is doing the wrong thing.
Did the NFL do right after what happened to give the 3 times the dollar value and tickets for next year, Kalishaw?
Yeah, I think they did as much as they could. I don't know how you could do more than that, but still, those fans, they've got a right to be very upset after the travel they made to get here.
Is that going to cover for all the expenses, not just the ticket expenses, which are overpriced, the hotel, the flights? And speaking of flights, if you continue to have it in situations where weather can be a factor, how many people are not going to be able to get to the city in time because of canceled flights?
It was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for fans of both those cities. They should have taken those sponsors who get all the good seats and say, hey, you move outside, we're going to put real fans in the seats.
They did. A lot of those fans, it was 1,200 affected, 800, they moved NFL personnel and families and that sort of thing to accommodate them. But Woody, you act like this is a new phenomenon, bringing it to cold cities. Joe Montana's first Super Bowl was in Detroit. Super Bowl 26 was in Minnesota. This isn't a new thing. You don't exclusively put it in 5 cities.
It's always been a mistake, Michael, to do this.
We've been horned. We have a lot we want to get to today, so we're taking our break right now. Buy or sell next.